Welcome to the Absite Smackdown podcast. We'll talk clinical scenarios, Absite facts, and interesting general surgery knowledge. Now, let's get to it.
Hey guys, it's me, Jess, your host of Absite Smackdown podcast. And with me today is Dr. K and my favorite other female companion, Dr. Randa Bassoon. How are you guys doing?
Well, Jessica, today's a great day. Things in this part of the world have been pretty good. Weather's okay. And still enjoying having version 3.0 out in the wild. So I was really happy to get together today because, heck, I've got time on my hands.
You and the southern life down there, you're lucky it's still kind of warm. How is it? Are you, Randa, are you in Vegas? Right now?
I am in Las Vegas. It's beautiful outside, but sitting around studying for the next 4 days. But after that,
you don't see the light of day right now, right? You're just kind of like
not really
surgery or book. So okay,
correct. Well, exactly what it's been like. Operating room rounds or studying and doing questions.
Right. And so you said something earlier, like off camera, that actually is what we want to talk about today. So our podcast today is just talking about resources for studying for the Absite, because either you're taking your test right now, or you just took your test, or you're about to take your test. And so we thought at the healthcare lab, it would be a great time to try and help you guys. Because, obviously we have our own thing, but there's other stuff out there. So we wanted to help, and we created a resource guide that is going to be available. We'll have the link in this podcast.
The Absite Smackdown podcast. Visit the Smackdown at absitesmackdown.com.
Dr. Kate, I sent you over the link to it. And was there anything on there that you've gotten to look at or refer to some of your residents that you are feeling like is a good resource?
Yeah, I thought the resource guide was fantastic. You guys broke it up into audio, video, and written resources. Couple things on there. You listed the Stanford website, which is great for residents. I think they call it Scalpel. And all the links are in there and live in that report. And it allows us to kind of just click on them and then we go to it. And Scalpel has a ton of resources. Some other podcasts are really useful and interesting. Trauma Rounds, it's one of them. The Surgery 101, it's got older stuff now. Legends of Surgery for the occasional podcast break. And every podcast has its strengths and weaknesses. Some have audio that's not always as good. Behind the Knife's got some good Absite review, like Rhonda said, although sometimes it really gets in the weeds with very specific stuff. But it's got a big listenership and it's useful. And every podcast and video resource that we list, including Citizen Surgeon and these other ones, or that you guys sent to me that is listed there, really useful, but each has strengths and weaknesses. And I really like that you're sharing online free resources with our resident colleagues for the 2022 report that you guys compiled. I think it's great.
Well, obviously here at Absite Smackdown, we have our own resources, our own book, but everyone want something more than just us, and we want to offer that and just let them know that we're trying to build the best surgeons. The majority of our content is free, so why not do something else to just help everyone? And so that's where it was coming from. And we got a lot of help from our residents and everybody on the team, with recommendations and putting it on there. So it was really a collaborative effort, and I hope that it's going to help. So you were going down the list. Was there any other ones that Dr. K just named off, that besides the Behind the Knife, that you have used or that you would want to recommend off the list?
Yes, Citizen Surgeon actually is led by a surgeon that I know personally, and I've heard this individual lecture and teach me personally, actually. So that is a fantastic resource as well.
The Absite Smackdown podcast is based on the best-selling review book, Absite Smackdown, the only Absite review with an entire video review course included. Visit absitesmackdown.com and pick it up today.
Yeah, I agree. And I've been sharing the report since Jessica sent it to me, kind of far and wide. And I really like the citizen surgeon content. It seems like some of his website's work has maybe not as up to date, or he's been real busy and hasn't been able to update as much as we'd like, because like you said, it is great content. So that was very useful to see, just to kind of revisit his stuff. And then I would also share that some of the written stuff on there, Jessica, that the team found, the Project Smackdown team found, is really excellent. The American College of Surgeons has their own thoughts on from the RISE program that they have, where they share how they think it's best to study for the Absite. It's a little bit older now. Again, some of the podcast materials are dated, and every single one has its strengths and weaknesses. But that was a very useful article to see how the college recommends people study and what resources were available years ago when that brief online write-up came up. So that was really useful to see too.
I think something that we've talked about a lot, and I don't really need to reiterate it here, but a lot of times, like with the way things progress and with the test, like right now, our study material is accurate for like what the test is going to ask. But, every day in medicine is different, and we're learning new ways to do things. So what someone may not do right now in practice may not correlate with the Absite question. And we've had some people ask about that. And do either one of you have an opinion? Have you found that as you take your test, or as you're teaching, Dr. K? Like, have you run across that?
Well, I'm interested to hear Rhonda's experience with it first, and then I'll chime in. But I'm curious to see, or to hear from a resident perspective, what the feelings are nowadays about Absite versus real world versus board prep and everything in between. So, Rhonda, what do you think?
Yeah, so we have been told that the Absite is generally 2 to 3 years behind some current practices. So I'm curious this year if we're going to start getting COVID-related questions. I know they started to pop up in our question bank. I know I definitely saw, like in TrueLearn finishing the question bank this year, that I definitely saw 1 or 2 COVID-related, acute respiratory distress type questions. So I'm curious to see if Absite is caught up to that. But there are certain situations where you would read a question and say, well, that's not really what I would do in real life, but I can understand why the literature states, or why the Absite or the board stands behind these certain questions or results. I think one example that I can think of is when, let's say, something like the first line management of C. diff, when that changed just a couple of years ago, we were all wondering if the Absite or the board questions are going to change their recommendation from, say, flagyl as first line versus oral vancomycin as first line therapy. So luckily, I haven't seen that question in the last couple of years, but that's like an example of something that has maybe changed our practice, but not has made it to the exams yet.
Yeah, and I'll pick up on some of what Rhonda said. First, most textbooks in surgery are about 4 years out of date. That's classic from the books I participated in. By the time they get through the editing process, et cetera, they're about 4 years behind. And so I think, Jessica, you and the team there have done a nice job. You've evolved Absite Smackdown very quickly, and you've helped us kind of put it together, for several versions now in just a couple of years to improve spacing and content. And even with that, I feel like the Absite has classic questions that it focuses on. It kind of tends to go to the classics or gravitate toward them, and sort of often stays away from the most current management or most up to date for different things, for some of the reasons that Rhonda said. I would also add that questions like COVID, et cetera, can come up as sort of ethics questions. They may use it in the stem of a question, but the pathophysiology, some of the different things, it's very politicized as a topic. I don't think, like Rhonda said, there'll be much of it. And I also wanted to share that it was really interesting. I know originally you guys were going to put this Absite Smackdown version 3 out as the COVID Aftermath edition. So behind the scenes, I saw the cover for it. It had COVID getting punched with a boxing glove. I'm not kidding. It was really cool. But I know because COVID's continued on, we were in the variants now. I know you guys sort of changed the plan and style. But originally, this was supposed to be the COVID Aftermath version, I think. Isn't that right?
It is. And then COVID didn't go away. And so, Okay, so maybe that will be the next book. Who knows at this point? We have to see what happens after we go through all these variants. I don't know. I'm ready for it to be done. So hopefully, so when you see the COVID variant book, then hopefully that means we're through. We're past. Yeah. So but I know that we've gotten some feedback sometimes, like as we're going through this, where people have questions and they're like, well, this isn't what I would do. And we try and keep material, and I know other people do, as I'm listening to Behind the Knife with the other stuff, it correlates with what we're doing. So, we are staying with the test, and until things evolve in real life, and then that changes, then we'll change stuff. So I just hope that residents are aware of that, and that they are getting those tricky questions where, like she said, is this what I would really do? Or is this what, the answer to the question is? So it's going to be fun.
Well, I wanted to pick up on just a couple of the things that we said. I know, Jess, you're keeping an eye on our time. But one of the things I found to be most useful, and what I would have wanted as a resident, is how Absite Smackdown has both the book and the video course, and they jive together. In addition to the new highlights conference, which is just the highlights, that video review course that comes with the book and agrees with the book is super useful. I know that sometimes we've had people give feedback. Some of the fake reviews that I've seen for the book that, other publishers and stuff get posted. Some of the fake reviews say, oh, they just kind of go exactly from the slides. Well, that doesn't mean it's boring. And I know that was intentional, that you had us narrate the book on the slides so that they agree. And it's a pretty dry fact kind of thing, although the talks are kind of interesting. But the headline is, you had it agree and be seamless, intentional. And I think that's a real benefit, because that really helps me when I'm either going through the book and I want to hear it, or I'm looking at my phone because I have 5-10 minutes between cases. That to me is a bonus. And I think that really makes Absite Smackdown kind of unique among some of the different resources that y'all list in the guide.
The Absite Smackdown podcast is going live. Reserve your seat for our upcoming live Absite review conference. Can't travel? On call? No problem. This online conference is recorded so you can catch up anytime. Reserve your spot by visiting us at absitesmackdown.com and selecting latest news for more information.
I think it was definitely consistency, because whether you have your book or not, if you're in the car and you're listening to it, if you're on your phone listening to it, you have your earpods in. If the lecture and the videos did not exactly match the book, there wouldn't be consistency. And so, we've gotten good feedback on that. And then, like you said, some of the unverified reviews that are questionable have said something. So we don't really know. We just, we learn with each version what people want, what people ask for, and we try to meet that and just put out the best product we can, which I'm sure is what everyone's doing, which is, why we made that list. We're all working together to try to help all the residents out, because they are our colleagues and they will be taking over. So we just want them to have everything that they can have. All the stuff you didn't have when you were, dinosaur days. Is that what you call it? What is it you always say? Like, when the dinosaurs roamed, what do you call it?
Yeah, no, I just say we were fighting off the raptors to get to the OR, and it was really hard writing the charts out in cuneiform, and all that clay gets on your hands, all the stuff. It is what it is. I'm really curious, Rhonda, as we wrap up here, of the free resources that are listed there, and you mentioned one you use already, and your citizen surgeon connection. What are some of the other ones, maybe ones that were new to you that you hadn't seen before, kind of on the list that the rest of the Project Smackdown team put out?
Scalpel was definitely one of them. I hadn't heard of that before. And then Surgery 101, was that what it's called? Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think
something simple that we should have already known about, but I hadn't heard of those resources.
Mm-hmm. Again, I think that some of them, like Surgery 101, has some older content. There's Ventura Surgery School. That was one that I had seen but not really looked at. that is a YouTube channel, which is really well done, maintained by, I believe, a surgical oncologist and assistant program director. Great hand-drawn, hand kind of illustrated flow diagrams as a YouTube channel, but really hits a lot of stuff. It's all freeware and really kind of interesting. So in addition to the Absite Smackdown channel, all the free talks Jessica and the team share. Ventura Surgery School was a new one for me. That's available, and I know the link is listed in the PDF. So one you may want to check out sometime.
Dr. K, you mentioned listening and reading something that is, almost the same. And I feel like, especially as surgeons, we are special in that we don't know how to, well, maybe some people are different. Everyone learns differently, but I feel like we are the most known for learning while doing or learning while listening. So I think that, especially somebody like me, I like to hear someone say something. It impacts me more, or I pick it up more than if I just read it in a book. Otherwise, all of medical school will just be, handing us a textbook and say, read this cover to cover and, pass your boards. But
your medical school, Rhonda, your medical school wasn't like that? What did you guys?
I showed up to 5 hours of lecture every day for 2 years.
Oh, wow. They just gave us a book. They said, good luck. And, kids have at it. No, I mean, you're right. I completely agree with you. Auditory, kinesthetic, all the different learning styles. So you were saying it just kind of helps you when you get to hear.
Of course, it helps me when I hear it. I can hear it in my brain when I take an exam, or especially if it's something repeated. I could read over a sentence, but let's say you repeated a sentence and said, so just to recap, X, Y, and Z, I'll remember it in my mind. Oh, that's right. He said to recap this. Oh, it must be important. Let me listen to it again. Maybe I missed it the first time, or maybe I just read over it and glanced over it. So I learn better that way, and I'm sure things like, behind the knife have picked up favor because people learn better that way too.
Well, Jessica, that's the take from Dr. Barsoom and myself. We think the resources you guys sent us are super useful. I'm really glad you guys are sharing them. I think you said they'll be on the website, on the blog. You guys are going to put them down beneath our talk here on the channel when this goes live. And I think it was really useful. Introduced a whole bunch of new resources. And I like the commentary with the strengths and weaknesses of each resource, because they do have them. And it kind of was very interesting to me. It kind of would help direct, what I use for what. So I think it was pretty good.
Well, I'm glad you guys have positive feedback. We're always going to be trying to do something new and grow. Obviously, if people like this and it was useful to them, then as more resources come out, we'll update it and we'll put a new one out. We're here to service the community and, just build those better surgeons. So again, like Dr. K just said, we will put the link down below on all of our things. You can go to our website and find it. And anything else before we head out? I know that your test is coming up soon, and I know you've been studying and doing so good, and I'm so excited for you. And are you ready? Do you feel ready? Do we ever feel ready? Is anyone ever ready?
I would be worried if I felt ready, and I never feel ready. But you can only prepare so much, and T-minus 4 days, I guess.
Right. I know. And like you said, doing the conference, doing the notes, doing the sides, all of that, it like burns it into your brain. It helps with your learning style. And so you're going to have those memories when you get there and it's stressful. You can be like, oh, wait, I did this. It'll be great. You're going to do great. I'm sure. Dr. K, any parting words?
Well, best of luck to everybody if they haven't taken it. If you have already, congrats. The 2022 resource will be really useful. If you haven't taken it, I think that, now's the time to review what you know. I'm sure everyone's done a ton of questions. Really, that's the key. I think you all can do better than me. I used to do very few questions and somehow it turned out. But I would say I would advise nowadays, do the questions, get them done after you've gone through your review books and videos. Make sure you go through all those questions. I agree with Jess. Ron, I think you're going to do great. And good luck to everybody out there if they haven't taken it already.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, with that, what do we always say? Hashtag Absite Smackdown.
Get more Absite content in your daily routine. Visit us on Instagram at daily.absite.fact, on Facebook at Absite Smackdown, or LinkedIn at Absite Smackdown. And you can catch the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or any place you listen to your favorites. Don't forget our YouTube channel, Absite Smackdown.